Here with Coach Anna Nimz as the Demons get ready for the conference home opener times two, I guess,
Times
this
two.
week. This week, McNeese and Nichols coming to Prather, and we'll get into at least that McNeese game for sure in a minute. But Coach, before that HCU game, we talked about how you wanted to see some toughness from the team, and came out, got a lead, held the lead. And then HCU made a little run there at the end. So I feel like in those last few minutes is where we really needed that toughness. And it feels like maybe we saw that toughness that we needed to pull out the win.
Yeah, and I would actually even go all the way back to the tip-off. I think the toughness had to start from the jump. Both teams coming off Christmas break. I think it was Coach Brown that kind of mentioned it, but it's the tougher team's going to win the game like that. Nobody's in the kind of, in condition that we've all had a couple days off to lose and forget plays or whatever and just get a little rusty. And our girls came out with a real, a dominant, 1-2 punch there right from the start. So I was really proud of them. I was proud of their defensive attack. I know it was maybe mentioned that, that they weren't running their offense, but it was our girls who took them out of their offense. And I was proud of them. I thought they guarded the heck out of it in scout the day before, and they showed it and brought that toughness. And toughness was very all-encompassing. It's how tough was our bench? Was our bench talking and cheering? Was the on-court stuff? Was it communicated in high energy? Toughness is just such a broad thing. And then, down the stretch, down in the last 4 or 5 minutes, there's way too many times where we would extend it back to 11, all to let them come right back. And so we have to have that consistent toughness to where we don't go back and forth. We got to know how to put a team away. But they showed toughness, and they were resilient down the end. And, we get to learn with a win, and that was big. I think we were waffling a little bit on some composure down the stretch with that last minute 30, but it's a good game. It's a good conference game. We took one on the road, and now we got to go back to the drawing board and actually learn from a win instead of learning from a loss, and that always feels obviously a lot better.
You mentioned that 1-2 punch, obviously talking about Sharna and V and what they did, almost 40 points of the 58 that we scored. But talk specifically about what Sharna did on a day where obviously the threes weren't falling for her like she's used to, but she's able to still find a way and contribute and score and do the things that she's capable of.
Yeah, one of the things I actually wrote on the board is an off shooting night isn't an excuse for a bad day or a bad game. And I think way too often kids kind of equate the two. If I'm not shooting, it's like I can't do anything else. And in fact, Sharna didn't hit from the outside, but she had a great pull-up game. She had a great 2-foot shot game with her pull-up J's. She was incredible the day before on scout with her communication and piggyback that same exact thing. And so I was excited to see, her shot didn't fall. She got really good looks at it, but it didn't impact her level of play. And that's something that we needed to see growth back from the UIW game, whereas maybe then the shots did affect the overall play with some of us. It didn't, and Sharna had a great game, but she got a great game on both sides of the ball. And I think people fed off her energy, yes, on scoring, but really off the defensive end.
Are we starting a campaign to rename it Sharna Gym instead of Sharp Gym?
Well
Back-to-back
played.
20. Yeah,
Well played.
I had to throw that one in there for sure. But obviously, we've seen what Maya's done this year. Obviously, Sharna and V and the different scoring options. So when Maya has an off-ish night offensively like she did on Sunday, we still have these options, and it's a encouragement. It's a lot of fun to see the potential as we move into these two games here at home.
Yeah, and that's something that we've talked to them about. Maya's a tremendous player, and she's not going to have too many off nights back to back at least. But an off night isn't an excuse for a bad game. And Maya may have been quiet on the offensive end, but she came up clutch down the stretch with, she made an incredible bounce pass to V in transition for a quick 2. That was huge, but she had a nice stat line. She still got rebounds. She still had a handful of assists. And so she made players around her better, and that's what we needed. The other thing that I thought was good is she showed maturity because I pulled her down the stretch just because we wanted to be a little bit bigger in our defense, and she was mature in her role of sitting instead of her role of being on the court. And so there was just a lot of maturity and a lot of positives that maybe from the outside you don't see, and you wonder why I sat our leading scorer. But it was simply a defensive thing, right? And we could go offense, defense, and rifle her in when we needed. And but she did a good job. And even to that, we actually have even more firepower still sitting on the bench. But we've just got to get them to play it at an intense level in practice. improve it on the defensive end so that we can get them back on the offensive end, because I still think we've got some tremendous kids, with the ability to hit the outside shot. And so we have a lot of firepower. There is enough ball to go around. And so, I'll be excited for the day that everybody's firing, and so there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of things that can be, and we just got to work towards that goal.
As we look at this game on Thursday, like I said, home opener, talk to me a little bit about McNeese and a much different McNeese team than we saw last year.
Yeah, very different. It's a very different, they've done a nice job. They've gotten a lot more local kids. They've gotten a handful of transfers that maybe went up and on, and then our Louisiana kids and came back, and they landed at McNeese. They're a little more athletic, probably a little quicker step. They're still running the same stuff as far as their offense and defense, and their 1-3-1, that zone gives everybody problems. It's just a weird look on the offensive end when you don't see it just a bunch. And so, but they're doing it. They're firing on all cylinders. They've had a good preseason, and it's going to be one that we're going to have to play for 40 minutes to get the win. Last year. Everybody's got a new this year. And so there's nothing except for us. We need to focus on us.
Coach, thanks so much.
Happy New Year.